Welcome back to the podcast of basketball love. It has been a long time coming indeed. I'm Josh Verlin, PoBL founder, most importantly, PoBL co-host, joined by two guys who you're going to see a lot on this podcast moving forward. PoBL's assistant editor, Owen McCue, and Ty Daubert, one of our staff writers. Gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. How are we feeling tonight?
What's going on, Josh? Doing pretty well. How about yourself, Ty? A little technical difficulties to start here?
Yes, a little bit of technical difficulties on my end. My computer decided that it wanted to update despite the fact that I did not select that. Did it on its own, but about a half hour later, so we're into
rolling,
it.
man. We're rolling.
Literally right as he goes to hit the record button, the podcast of technical difficulties returns. But no, I'm so excited to be bringing this podcast back. It's been 4 or 5 years since we've done our last one. It's really been like 6 or 7 years since we did it regularly. But this is a new era of PoBL, and now thanks to this Restream app, we're able to produce these podcasts a lot easier. So expect to see quite a bit of video podcast content moving forward. Panels like this one, we're going to bring on special guests, do interviews, all sorts of larger episodes, smaller episodes, and really bring back the podcast of basketball love in force. Two guys here on this podcast with me are certainly a major reason that we're able to start putting out a lot more content again. But the other major reason are our supporters. PoBL is now a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And while we do bring in some revenue from businesses and grants, half of our revenue is through individual donations. So you can support us on our Patreon page or our PayPal page. Our links will be in the description of the YouTube channel. We appreciate any and all support that we can get. That's literally how we pay for all the amazing content that you get to enjoy on PoBL for free. And before we get into things too much, tonight's podcast is brought to you by Competitive Edge Sports, conveniently located in King of Prussia, just minutes from 76 in the King of Prussia Mall. Competitive Edge's 5-court state-of-the-art facility is great for basketball, volleyball, futsal, and sports performance. Learn more at cessports.net. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe, all that fun stuff below, so you can stay up to date on the interviews, podcasts, and everything that we'll be posting in the coming weeks and months. So guys, let's get down to it. It is Monday, October 17th. We are exactly 3 weeks out from the start of the 2022-23 college basketball season. It is shaping up to be an interesting year in this City Six. On the women's side, we've got All-American Maddie Siegrist leading the show at Villanova. We got really intriguing LaSalle team, got Drexel's roster turnover, and obviously more on the men's side. We got the new leadership at Villanova and LaSalle. We got potentially Temple's best team in quite some time, and plenty more to talk about on the men's side. So, we've obviously got a lot of time until the season begins, but Owen, let's start with you. I mean, what are you most excited to see when the City Six squads get underway in 3 weeks?
Well, first off, happy to be back covering college basketball in the city. It's been, 5 years since I was covering for you? I think I did a little research, in the last college basketball game I covered was 4 years ago. I get the city, made some trips already down to pre-stuff, so getting to reacclimate myself with people. Seems like a good year to hop into a couple new coaches, and like you said, roster turnover on some squads. Don't want to favor the alma mater too much, but like you mentioned, Temple is a squad that I'm really excited to see, both the men's and women's teams this year. A couple local products on Temple. Obviously, Damian Dunn was an all-league type player last year, and they bring back Caleb Battle, who had an unbelievable start to last season. To see if all those pieces can fit together, they brought in some big talents through the transfer portal that it sounds like the players and coaching staff are really high on. I think Dunn mentioned, he said tournament or bust. I don't know if that is how they want to grade, but certainly the expectations, I think, surrounding the program are that high. I could kind of tell last year I wasn't covering the team, but I started getting the texts from all the buddies and stuff, and said, hey, have you were watching the team as they started to put some wins together. So definitely the men's side is a team I'm watching. And then on the women's side, I think they have a really, really interesting roster looking through. A couple big-time transfers in Kendall Kearns from Northeastern, and then the new coach, Diane Richardson, brought in Aaliyah Nelson, an all-league player from Towson too, and a couple other transfers. I believe 7 transfers. And that's some good young talent last year too, just kind of see how that mixed. Ania Gordine, she has a really cool game. I haven't got to see her watch her play, but the first 2 triple-doubles in Temple history as a freshman last year is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know if you have any more thoughts on them. Obviously, I haven't got to see them in play yet.
Yeah, I know. Gordine's great, and I got to see Nelson too play for Towson against Drexel, and
Okay.
she's super talented. I mean, look, the AAC is a big leap up from the CAA, but I think there's a little more parity on the women's side, and so I'm not as concerned as I would be on with somebody on the men's side making that leap. And like you said, they bring back, some really intriguing freshmen, including like some third-year sophomores.
Mhm.
So they've got this like weird mix of like some experience, some talent, new coaching staff, like. That Temple women's team could be anywhere from like a 12 or 13 win team to like a 22 win team, and I
Right.
wouldn't really
Yeah.
be surprised anywhere in that range.
Some really, really good guards. It should be kind of fun. And I think she wants to play some up tempo too. It's kind of weird going from Mia Davis playing through the all-time leading scorer in program history as a forward to I think they're going to get out and run and have some guards to do that. They should be fun to watch. And like I said, on the men's side, you mentioned the classes, like they're all technically sophomores, which is wild because some of the guys have been around for 3 years, maybe even no
Yeah,
names
this is
for
Damian
longer.
Dunn's fourth year.
Remember, I was leaving, he was kind of coming in over there, so it's kind of cool to see. I guess the core over there too, right? That's kind of when Aaron came in. You want to see what okay now that you've been able to build it, see what could be possible this year. So that should be really fun to watch.
Ty, what about you? What gets you excited about the city?
I guess the first one with Owen mentioning Temple, and he kind of alluded to it there. I think one of the first things that I'm excited to seeing is he mentioned Caleb Battle coming back as one of Temple's returners, and last year he was like one of the breakout players in the city, averaged like 21 points a game for Temple before he got hurt, and I think just his return to the court, Temple was playing well last year. There's a lot of buzz around them going around the Big Five, like Owen mentioned. I think just his return and seeing what another season of him looks like, and what heights that he can help them reach, like what they are, and if they are able to make the tournament for the first time in a little bit, I think just focusing on him, like he's one of the players I'm really excited to watch and cover this year.
I think he was
Anybody
at
else?
Trenton Catholic the last time I was working for COBL with Paul Mulcahy, Josh, to see how long it's been. Sorry, Ty.
No, all good. And then also, I think one of the other things I'm looking forward to see is just the Villanova men's team. Obviously, changes up top. Jay Wright on the way out. He retires, and Kyle Neptune coming in. He's a Nova guy for a long time, and just a new face, but it's still a lot of the same stuff going on. And just to see if after a Final Four run, if they're able to keep it going, and they've been kind of one of the best teams in the country for a pretty long time now, and just being able to seeing if they can keep that going will definitely be something to follow for everybody in the area.
I know two things on the women's side that we haven't mentioned yet that I'm really excited to see. Certainly Maddie Segrist. I mean, I think she has actually 2 years left if she wants to use them. This is her senior year. So, we'll see if she's going to come back for another season after this. But she was just an absolute force last year. And the fact that she was putting up the numbers that she put up on every single night, even as it became so obvious that she was, this two-way force, and continued to, 25 points, 30 points, 25 points. I don't know how much better she can get this year, but I'm very curious to see what her follow-up act is going to be, and just to get to watch and cover her for another season. And then LaSalle's women, I think, could be really, really good this year. They return all their pieces. Kayla Sproul leading the way is terrific. I think Gabby Crawford really started to find her footing last year. She's at her third school in 4 years, and this is the first time she'll have played multiple seasons at the same school. Molly Massantonio on the point guard. I mean, LaSalle brings a lot back, and I think they could be really good. And especially just from covering the men's side for the last few years, where there hasn't been a ton of excitement on the men's side, like it's just kind of nice to be covering a LaSalle team that has some promise. Not that this men's team, that's another. We'll talk about question marks in a second. That's certainly an interesting storyline to follow. But the LaSalle women could be pretty good. And then beyond that, I mean, I think it's like just to echo you guys, that Temple men's team is so interesting because and I like Fran Dunphy a lot, but it never quite felt like he was the perfect fit at Temple. And you would have to think that Aaron McCue is that kind of guy who can really bring Temple back to the heights it was at when it was a top 10, top 15 program, maybe not on a perennial basis, but, to have the ability to get there. And it seems like he's got a team and a core that, if it lives up to expectations, could get there. But we're going to find out, we'll know within 2 or 3 weeks if this Temple team is for real.
To the LaSalle women, a coach who's pretty good teams in the past at Quinnipiac, right? So I think being down there at practice, he was saying that he hasn't had a team at LaSalle with this kind of experience, but he's had it before, and he's not quite sure yet, but you can kind of tell as a coach when you might have something special, and obviously a lot of things have to go right, but it would be obviously to have someone that could lead them there. And along those lines, how about like the upper level talent on the women's side all around and experienced talent? You mentioned Kayla, Maddie, the guards from Temple were all conference players. Key Washington at Drexel. There's a lot of really good players. Kayla Padilla. Yeah. There's some really, really fun players on the women's side to keep an eye on this year that have been there, done that.
Speaking of Kayla Padilla, and she's really fun to watch on the courts because she gets buckets. But and you had a chance to talk with her one-on-one. I don't want to spoil your story here, but I was just curious what your impressions were of getting to meet with her and speak with her one-on-one.
Yeah. Obviously, those Ivy League kids always seem to be pretty good interviews, to no surprise. But yeah, she's really cool and seems to have a very mature understanding of the game and I guess college athletics. And I don't know, there's perspective too. Penn is so different too, having that whole year canceled, having kind of your career rebooted and have to kind of do it again. So obviously it was kind of cool to see some of the successes of some of those girls individually. Obviously they didn't have the success as a team as they've had in the past. So that will be interesting to see if they can kind of put it all together this year. They have some interesting pieces too. One of your favorite names of the year transferred in, Floor from Florida, who could possibly be that's a high major talent possibly kind of joining the team.
Yeah, Flora Tunders, gotta love it. And so this is our, being our first podcast back, we're kind of gonna keep things a little general. We'll do some college stuff, some high school stuff. I won't go too in depth tonight, but I will, over the next couple of weeks, we will do sort of a full in depth City 6 men's preview podcast and a City 6 women's preview podcast where we'll sort of give our actual predictions for each team. But there is one thing I wanted to cover on this podcast, and it's not something we typically do on the site, but I figured it'd be fun to kind of give a little bit of a City 6 rankings where we see if we can kind of come to a consensus between the three of us as where things stand heading into the season. So I think the best way to start that off is on the men's side. Because the obvious question, right, is there's been one team that has been the dominant, obvious number one team in the power rankings for so long, and that's Villanova. But as we sit right now, 3 weeks before the season, Justin Moore is injured, and he's not coming back at least for, another month and a half, right? Cam Whitmore is out, and he's out until at least early November, and, maybe he'll be back for the start of the season, but won't have played for a little bit. Caleb Daniels missed some time in the preseason. They really literally just had 7 players for Blue and White Night. So, Ty, I'll throw this to you first. Is Villanova, should they be number one at our power rankings going into the season?
I still think, just because of, everything over the past few years, I think you've kind of seen that there's enough in place that they're always it seems like they're going to be this good, even if there is some turnover. They're losing Colin Gillespie, losing Jay Wright as the coach. I still think that for the most part, this core of players has been together for a while. They have a lot of players who have been there and experienced a lot of success, where it's kind of, I think they would have to prove that they're not at the top for me to put them down any farther, if that makes sense. I don't know. I guess they'll pretty early in the season. I guess they're a game coming up with Temple, and that'll kind of maybe answer the question early on. But
don't spoil my role, Ty.
But other than that, I think, at least for the start, I'm probably putting them one.
Owen, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of along these lines, I guess you can't really take them off the spot until someone beats them. Obviously, we'll find out pretty quickly there. The talent level is so high there. I mean, a lot of kind of semi-local and local products too. That obviously you got a chance to see a lot at the high school level. Some big names have been there a couple years and haven't played. So we know the talent levels there. They have some experience too, especially with Caleb Daniels and Eric Dixon and a couple of others. Yeah, it's like I think I'm along Ty's line where you can't drop them until you see it. What's the Big Five winning streak?
I don't know what it's currently
Any idea?
at.
Yeah, pretty.
Well, they lost one. They lost that to Penn a few years ago, and that broke their streak. And I don't think they've lost since then. So it might be back at like 17 or 18, but it wasn't. Yeah, they lost to Penn December 2019 or December 2018 of the 2018-19 season, and I don't think they've lost a Big Five game since then. But they also didn't play a full Big Five schedule,
right?
So it's probably at like 10 or 11.
Yeah,
that's something
without sitting here and just counting it.
Things we're looking forward to. I think this is the first year in a couple of years that all the Big Five teams on both sides will actually play each other. There's been some cancellations the past couple of years, right?
Yeah, no, and I actually I don't know now if at this point I'm just like playing contrarian, but I might actually put Temple 1 going into the season. Like if Justin Moore isn't hurt and if Cam Whitmore isn't hurt, then that's probably a different answer. But they're pretty short-handed and pretty short on experience, and they've got that new head coach, and everybody keeps saying it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference. But man, I mean, Temple, it feels like if Temple is going to live up to the team that it should be, they should win that game November 11th. And I guess then I'm thinking, all right, well, if they should win that game 4 days into the season, then why shouldn't they be the number one team going in? But I get that would probably piss off a lot of Villanova fans.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense though. Like with the team, like the current condition with guys hurt early in the season, I think that does make sense.
Yeah, like that has to factor into it, right? You can't ignore that. So all right, so either way, so let's go. If we got Villanova 1, Temple, right behind them at 2. Sure. Then the interesting question, like Penn 3.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Jordan Dingle last year, like a breakout season for him. He's probably in line for like another similar season where he's going to be one of the better players in the Ivy League. So yeah, I think nobody like really solidifying themselves as the 3, like an obvious 3, but I think they probably have the edge there.
Yeah, a lot more experience and I guess known depth than the other 2 teams, I would say too, right?
And they were so hurt last year. Like, I think it's tough to say, like, all right, how they played such a hard schedule with like no experience. It's tough in the preseason because it's everybody just seems optimistic, but it is kind of hard to look at Penn and not think like, yeah, they're doing for a pretty big step forward this year with everybody coming back, and they seem pretty high on Cam Thrower as well, the freshman.
There were a couple guys that they were high on, kind of taking a step forward, especially I guess at the forward spot, right?
Yeah. So then, all right. So Villanova, Temple, Penn, and this is where things start to get a little dicey between. I think you have to go St. Joe's 4, Drexel 5, LaSalle 6, and I would say, I think it's tough, but St. Joe's. If Eric Reynolds take that step forward, right? If Christian Winborn is as good as they say he is, you still have a GK Obina. There's a lot more experience remaining than there is at Drexel. Even though I think Drexel actually could be a little bit of a surprise this year with the talent they have, I think you got to go St. Joe's above them for now.
Yeah. Reynolds being the best player, you give the nod, right? What, third team all A10 preseason pick, should take a jump. You would think. I think you tabbed him as our breakout player of the year, right? I think, you lean towards the best player in basketball usually, right? So I think that's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I know this is, I guess, no debate here. It's not super riveting, but I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys.
Drexel plays Penn November 15th, so that'll be like an interesting early look at where things are shaking out. Obviously, Temple Villanova, Villanova LaSalle November 7th, which I guess we can kind of while we're talking about the men, let's go into this a little bit before, like, let's pre-Thanksgiving. Owen, what's a couple of games on the men's side that you're interested in and seeing how they shake out?
Well, circled that one, right? The first one off the start. That'll be the weirdest thing ever watching Fran Duffy on a Big Five sideline in third different team now. And then no Jay Wright on Villanova's sideline. To start the season like that, that's definitely storylines galore on our part, right? You have to be looking forward to that and seeing what both of those teams look like because they're the two biggest unknowns in the city. LaSalle adds a couple transfers in, the Drame brothers from St. Peter's, a couple other exciting pieces, some local guys. That backcourt could be interesting. Yeah, like you said, getting a first look at what this Villanova team looks like. Obviously, they're talented, but we don't really know. But yeah, that from the start, that's got to be the first one on our radar, right?
Yeah, like what I like imagine LaSalle coming out in Fran Dunphy's first game and beating Villanova on its home court. Unlikely, but not impossible.
Yeah, would be pretty incredible story there.
I know.
If there's a year to do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We were at a event the other night, and Fran Dunphy jokingly was like, "Oh, welcome back to LaSalle. Your first game is at Villanova. Good luck."
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the one the night after that. Totally different atmosphere, but Immaculata actually hosting Albany. Albany men, their facility is under construction this season, so they're playing at a community college for most of their games. They didn't have the availability to play at home that night, and they had just played at Towson the night before, so they're actually playing at Immaculata. I can't remember the last time a D1 played at a D3 gym, but that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I wonder like what the atmosphere will be like. Like who? I don't know. That'll be cool.
Yeah, Immaculata better fill it up.
You would hope so, right?
Yeah. I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
No, who's coming? There's like, what was the storyline that you were talking about too with that game?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Albany's got a whole bunch of local kids like Daquan Davis. Will be a senior there, so kind of funny. Like his second ever Division I basketball game will be back in a D3 gym that I can't say for sure he's played in. I'd have to look at, but he was there. He was at Arcadia for 4 years. It would surprise me if they didn't play at Immaculata once. Not the same conference, but it's still possible. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a whole bunch of local talent there. Huss Kettner from Carroll still plays at Albany. I know I'm missing a couple others that are up there. Dwayne Killings, obviously the head coach. Ryan Daly's an assistant. So all sorts of local storylines in the gym at Immaculata that night. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess I can go ahead with some of my early season matchups I'm looking forward to. I think the Villanova and Temple early in the season, like I mentioned before, I think that's the one I'm most excited to see. It's kind of like just gauging where both these teams are at early in the season. I think it's like for the purpose of it's like a really important matchup for both these teams just to see where they're at in terms of, is Villanova going to fall a little bit maybe, or is Temple going to take this step up that they seemingly think they can do? So I think like that's one of the key matchups like early in the season. And I know earlier you said kind of before Thanksgiving. I'm going to give one that's just after. I just think the Big Five doubleheader at the Palestra, I think it's the week after Thanksgiving, LaSalle, Temple, Penn, St. Joe's. I think that's just going to be a fun night. They haven't done that in a few years, so it'll be pretty cool to take in.
Yeah, I'm sure we will have not just coverage from there, but I'm sure we'll do some sort of podcast or video or something along the lines from that night, because that's definitely a special one. Also, like, there's no doubleheader that night, but November 15th, like a week into the season, is a really good night for the city. You got LaSalle Drexel on the women's side, should be a really good game. Drexel Penn on the men's side, St. Joe's Penn on the women's side. pardon me, that all those should be great games. And then you got Temple Vanderbilt. Temple just hosting an SEC team at home, so that should be a really fun night as well.
Yeah, lot of good stuff early in the season. That's
absolutely. All right, so women's. Let's we talked some games to watch. Let's rank these women's teams, because this I think should be maybe will be a little more of a debate than the men's, because I don't really know who the number one women's team in the city going into the year is. I really don't. If anybody has an idea, I would.
There's
go for it.
A lot of familiar names on teams, and then it's kind of like, okay, what's after that? It could be LaSalle, right? It could be LaSalle.
I would probably. Is it? Man, it's tough because Villanova. Okay, they returned Maddie Segrist, but they lost quite a bit. I mean, Lior Garzon transferred out. Herlihy's gone. Gardler's gone. So, they return a couple pieces. Lucy Olson's back. They're going to have some players that need to take a step forward. But LaSalle's got more established. I have to look up what their score was when they played last year.
Yeah, they bring their whole starting five back, right?
You could make an argument for LaSalle. You could make an argument for LaSalle. You could make an argument for Villanova. You could probably even make an argument for Temple. It's probably not as good of an argument.
Yeah.
But I think you can make that argument.
That's like for better or worse, you don't really know what that product's going to look like at all. So it could be, like you said, a lot of variance for that team.
Villanova beat LaSalle by 10 last year at LaSalle.
Okay.
But that's certainly a lot closer this year.
Yeah,
I'll go with LaSalle number 1. I would go with LaSalle number 1, Villanova number 2.
That LaSalle group's kind of like grown every year too. So it kind of would make sense if there's another leap forward they take, especially being led by a couple of fifth years who've have been there a while and been part of that growth too, which is a pretty cool story. There's a couple of like that around the city too, on the women's side in particular, of kids like staying around for 5 years, which obviously doesn't happen a whole lot anymore. But yeah, I think that experience of LaSalle, especially early on, right? I'd give them the edge to start the season.
Okay. And then Villanova. I mean, so then you got, Villanova's got a case for 2. Temple's got a case for 2. You almost might want to start from the bottom. Like, who's 6?
Yeah.
Like who's maybe Penn, which is tough to say because they've got,
one of the best players in the city. Yeah. And Drexel's a lot of unknown after their seniors, right? They're not there.
Yeah, but they still have Keyshawn Washington.
Yeah.
True. It's tough, like you said, it's pretty well rounded.
Yeah, it's tough on the women's side.
The whole lineup.
I probably would go Penn last, just because they do have so much. It feels like they've got the most questions.
Okay.
Right?
Then yeah.
Yeah. I don't have like much of an argument either way to these, like you said.
I know you guys haven't covered the City 6 women as much as I have yet, so this is maybe an unfair debate. So this is just me debating with myself, because it feels like it would.
Go ahead.
St. Joe's 5.
That's what I was going to say. Like, obviously, they have some familiar names too. They're younger though, right?
They are. Yeah, it feels like they should be above Drexel, right? Like they don't have a Keyshawn Washington, but they've got Jay Cott back, and they've got the sophomores all back. And I like Paula, the transfer from Hartford, and Laura Ziegler, the freshman from Denmark, is 6'2" and can shoot. And I really like her a lot. And I feel like St. Joe's is a team that could be a tournament, or maybe, push close to 20 wins, and then they end up in like that 2 slot or the 3 slot. But so is Drexel number 5?
Which again, it's hard to say because they had she could have been a player of the CAA type of. She had that type of season last year but I mean, they're going to have a lot of freshmen playing at Drexel this year, right? At the guard position in particular, probably. So, yeah, I think we could be. No one would be offended having them at 5 until we see a little bit more out of them, right?
So LaSalle, Villanova.
I'd go Temple after that.
Yeah, or like Temple ahead of Villanova, which is also tough to say because they don't have Maddie Segrist. But other than Maddie Segrist, what does Temple have? I mean, what does Villanova have? They have pieces, but I'm just saying, like, Temple has Nelson, and they've got the woman from Northeastern whose name is slipping.
Kendall Currents,
Kendall Currents. Yeah, I mean, they're not Maddie Segrist, but they've got 7 or 8 quality pieces.
Yeah, they have, I think, close to double-digit players who have started like double-digit Division I games. I would think that means something, right?
You'd have to think so. So is it crazy then if we go, LaSalle, Temple, Villanova?
I would still give
Drexel, Penn
the edge to Villanova from their experience last year, and obviously the best player in the city is hard to argue against again until someone beats them.
But coming soon on the podcast of Basketball Love, standings graphics.
We need them to shuffle up and down as we talk.
Can this platform do that, Ty, or no? We're still
we can look into it. We can look into it.
Cool. We're still learning. But yeah, so we'll do a full on City 6 men's and women's preview. We've been talking about them for long enough for our intro one for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. We've just started running a lot of college basketball City 6 content on the site, so check it out. We've got Drexel primers up. We'll have LaSalle primers up tomorrow. Starting to have some feature stories running on these teams, so definitely a lot coming in the next 2 weeks. But before we wrap up here tonight, I do want to just talk about the high school scene for just a few minutes because again, it's only October 17th. We'll do some full high school preview stuff, mid-November, really go league by league and go in depth on it. But we have been going out to a bunch of events. We've had a few of our own events. We had a boys shootout in September, a girls shootout in October. Owen was just at the Kutztown event yesterday. I was at the Made Hoops event a couple days ago. So we've gotten a chance to get out there and see a bunch of teams. Ty's been out at a bunch of these events as well. So Owen, just, I know it's kind of a big picture question, but just based on some of these events that you've gone out and seen the last few weeks, any specific teams, players that have jumped out to you that maybe you weren't paying attention to as much last year?
The District 1 on the girls' side is going to be so unbelievably fun this year. I think there's a lot of high quality teams. Obviously, a couple of those teams that went on deep district and state playoff runs bring a lot back. The 2 teams I covered last year in Springford and PV, but then you have an Ashami group that has a top 3 that can compete with anybody and is really fun to watch. I just watched Abington team yesterday. Has a Division I talent and a bunch of guards who love to run up and down the floor. They could be interesting. The PCL, I've got to see a lot of Lansdale Catholic and Wood this year, and both of those teams are pretty deep, I would say. A lot of players you can score and do a lot of other things.
Yeah, I love what Jada Helm brings to Lansdale Catholic.
Yes,
like they're good.
She can go get hers, but it also adds some defense and rebounding. Carroll's obviously tough. I was more on the boys basketball beat with the Mercury when I was up covering in Pottstown, but the talent on this women's side or girls' side is going to be really, really, really fun this year. We haven't even seen everybody's full teams yet. Want to see it in some of those 2-sport players and everyone's healthy and back in shape. I think it's going to be really fun. And that's my takeaway so far, how much I've been enjoying some of the high level talent on that side. There's some players that are really, really fun to watch. I didn't even mention Ruston brings back a lot of people that they play an unbelievably fun style. Get a chance to watch.
They look much improved from last year. Like I saw them last year against O'Hara, and they have Lane McGurk who's committed to Drexel. Yeah. But other than that, they got blasted by O'Hara. And I know O'Hara is fantastic, but Ruston looked much improved.
Yes, I'd say those are the. I'm trying to think. I obviously haven't seen everybody yet, but yeah, that Nishami team is probably the biggest surprise, right? From compared to where they finished last year. They I don't think they had a first round bye in districts or anything, but that top three, and then they have some solid pieces around them too, could definitely carry them pretty far.
Yeah, gotta like Reese
Yeah.
Semitis's game. 6'1" lefty, junior, really shoots the hell out of it. She's got like 14, 15 offers. Binghamton just offered yesterday. Whole slew of mid-majors on her. She's really good.
Yeah, I was up at Kutztown. Taylor Gersh, she Kutztown commit throws up 28 up there. That was pretty
Oh,
impressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'll work.
Yeah.
I guess for me on the girls' high school side, I didn't see a ton, but I was at one of the days for our fall event last month, and I think my biggest takeaway from that, Josh, you saw one of the games I did from Pennsbury. Sophia Vitucci, she one of their guards, she like didn't miss a shot from the mid range, like really quick pull up. She can finish, she can pass. She was like the most fun player to watch the day that I was covering. They should be like an interesting, fun team, and Suburban won. That was kind of I haven't seen a ton of the teams this year, but I think at least from our fall event, that was my big takeaway.
Yeah, I really like from our fall event. I think Perk Valley is in for a big season. I mean, that sophomore class they have is terrific. Quinn Bettinger, Grace Miley, Grace Galbavi, Bella Bakari, they're all really, really good. Bakani, sorry.
Yeah.
Still memorizing everybody's names. They're terrific. Spring Forward is gonna be really good once again. But honestly, like Perk Valley might have more, like have a higher ceiling, which Mickey McDaniel is not going to be happy about if he hearing me say if he listens to this. But that Perk Valley team was so good, and I also Neshaminy played so well. On the boys' side, I mean the Catholic League every single year, and we'll do a Catholic League preview podcast because it's just so deep, but it is incredible. Like the top 12 teams, there's two teams in that league that aren't going to compete for the title, and that's Lansdale and Conwell Egan. Every single other team in that league has talent, and every single other team in that league is going to have maybe they're not going to be the favorites coming into the season,
Yeah.
but they're going to be able to say, like, we think we can play at the Palestra for a championship, and you're not going to be able to say you're crazy. I mean, the 12th best team in that league is going to have 2, 3, 4 Division I players on it, and will be capable of winning the state championship bracket outside of whatever Catholic League teams are also in their state bracket. It is crazy how deep that league is.
Do you give anyone the edge up right now? From my initial impressions this summer, Newman is the favorite, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we haven't even seen them with Sultan Adewale all summer. Robert Wright's on a tear.
Yeah.
Kafik Myers is terrific. Getting Lorenzo Jerkins gives him more, umph around the basket. I mean, that Roman starting five is so good. You got the two St. Joe's commits in the starting lineup. They're terrific. But it's just, I mean, West Catholic, Bud Clark is playing as good ball as anybody around right now. They're right in the mix. Archbishop Wood, I mean, Jaleel Bethea, same goes for him. They're going to be in the mix. And I'm missing one potential
Devon
favorite.
Prep.
No, they're in that next. I have them in the next
tier
group. Yeah, along with your Carroll, your St. Joe's Prep.
Oh, Ryan, Archbishop Ryan. I think.
Ryan, thank you.
Ryan, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think any one of 5 you can call the favorite, which is crazy. I mean, man, Ryan's so good too. Ryan has been a serious. This is gonna turning into a Catholic League preview podcast. Ryan has looked so good too. I mean, Sorber's fantastic. He eats up everything in the middle, and then their wings are so good. Rocco Morabito, the kid transferred in from Shipley, gives them. I really like what he gives them. Man, and the St. Joe's Prep sophomores are all getting better too. It is crazy like that. It's just every time you watch a team, I was watching Archbishop Carroll on Saturday, and they look great. Dean Coleman Newsom is playing the best ball of his life, and Jake West is taking a step forward, and Sue Aline is taking a step forward, and they've got a lot of pieces. But I mean, they could legitimately be the 11th best team in the Catholic League. That's just how deep the league is. It's not any any reflection on how good or bad Archbishop Carroll is. It's just the reality of the PCL. The other thing I think the big takeaway for me is that I think Radnor is the best team in District 1, regardless of classification.
Yeah, they added Jackson Gaffney too, who looks like he will be a difference maker for them too.
Yeah, assuming he's eligible. And I don't have any
Yeah.
insight on that. He's just, he was at St. Joe's Prep last year. He's at Radnor this year. And until the season begins or they tell us, hey, he got a waiver or he didn't, it's going to be up in the air. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
But yeah, still, I think that's a statement we were saying before he even got there, like you said too,
correct.
right?
Correct. Even if he doesn't, I think they could be. If he does, then I think they certainly are. Without him, they're still the District 1 5A, title favorites, and depending on where exactly the state bracket shakes out, are favorites to go really deep.
West or East and 5A could be sneaky contender for them, right? They bring a lot back, and they've won the chess spot 3 years in a row. So
yeah, KJ Cochran, very good for them. So yeah, we'll get into all these leagues in the next couple of weeks. We'll do podcasts for all those and bring on some guests and all that kind of stuff. And this was just a good excuse to break off the podcast for us a little bit, get the brand back out there and all that good stuff. Just to give a quick preview of what's ahead, we're planning on doing these a couple times a week. We'll start bringing on some guests, start really focusing in on each episode and have a few more topics and be a little more planned out than just shooting the shit for a little bit. But we do have this upcoming week. Oh, definitely. Yeah. No,
okay.
We're allowed one curse word per City of Basketball Love podcast.
Okay.
2 if I feel like it. So coming up this weekend, we'll be at the Pangos All East Camp at St. Joe's Prep. That should be a lot of fun. Always some of the best freshmen and sophomores around. We'll podcast before then, I'm sure, but we also have the Pencrest Shootout coming up next weekend. St. Joe's Towson, first exhibition game of the year, Saturday, October 29th. Owen, I know you'll be there for that. We'll certainly at the week before that do a lot more of go through each team on the City Six, talk about potential outcomes, how this could all shake down, and we'll just be doing this regularly from here on out. So this was a lot of fun. Looking forward to bringing the podcast back on a regular basis. Guys, anything you want to say before we sign off here?
I guess just a lot of good sports energy in the city right now. Pro teams are playing well, and looking forward to keeping some of that going, I guess, in high school and college basketball coming up.
I'm going to – sorry, Owen, not to jump in here, but, like, Ty – I first of all, I agree with you, but I'm a little annoyed that like everybody keeps saying like, oh, the Phillies are in the National League Championship Series and the Eagles are 6-0, both of which are true. But I also haven't seen people mention that, by the way, the Philadelphia Union were the best team in the Eastern Conference all year. So
I have a ticket for Thursday's playoff game.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
I just, it's like, not that I'm like a huge Union supporter or anything, but like they fit in with the theme.
Flyers undefeated too, 2-0.
Yeah.
Did their season start already? Are they good now?
No.
They still suck, right?
But they're 2-0.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll celebrate the little wins. Owen,
exactly.
What's coming up for you?
Ooh, coming up for me?
Yeah, I don't know.
Red October, baby. I'm surprised we could get Ty on the pod, man.
Lot going on, but no, like I said, I'm really excited for basketball season. Lot of stuff to cover. A lot of different stuff to cover. I think it'll be fun to, last year was my first year with COBL, and I did a lot. Did high school, like Class A high school, all the way up to like March Madness at the Wells Fargo Center, and I think still somehow there are like a bunch of different steps in between of different things to cover. So it'll be fun. Just it'll be bigger focus. I'm out of school now, so it'll be a bigger focus for me, and I'm excited to see. I don't even know what to expect exactly, but I'm excited to get to everything.
Absolutely. Well, looking forward to our next podcast, which should be end of the week.
Cool.
Thank you to everybody who's watched and listened this far. We appreciate you sticking with us. We appreciate all of our supporters and fans out there. As always, we're reachable on Twitter. You see our Twitter handles here. I'm at JM Verlin. Ty's at Ty Daubert. Owen is at Owen_McCue. always, you can email us, cityofbasketballlove@gmail.com. Any thoughts, questions, concerns, especially if they're nice ones. And otherwise, have a great week, everybody. Go Phillies, go Eagles, go Union, go Flyers, I guess, go Sixers, all that good stuff. Best of luck
they
to all
start
the
this
college
week, too.
programs in their practices. Yep. And we'll see you guys on the flip side.